Thanksgiving dinner was barely underway when my mother-in-law lifted her wine glass and said, smiling sweetly, "He thinks he's successful, but without other people carrying him, he'd be nothing." The table burst into laughter.
So did I.
Because that's what I've learned to do when humiliation is dressed up as a joke. My name is Marissa Cole. I'm married to her son, Daniel. To the outside world, he's the success story, the self-made man, the golden boy. Inside our family, though, I'm invisible. Useful, but invisible. The one who organizes, calculates, fixes, and quietly pays. Especially her. Every month, like clockwork, a transfer leaves my account and lands in hers. Just a little support, she calls it. A blessing from family. She never calls it what it is, dependence wrapped in entitlement. That night, as laughter echoed around the table, something shifted inside me. No anger. No tears. Just a clean, cold understanding. I watched her dab her lips with a napkin, proud of herself, already reaching for dessert. I excused myself, walked to the hallway, and pulled out my phone. One app. One recurring payment. One soft tap. Cancelled. I slipped the phone back into my purse and returned to the table, still smiling, still laughing. She didn't notice. Not yet. But I knew something she didn't. Gratitude feels very different when the money doesn't arrive. And tomorrow morning it wouldn't. By morning, my phone was quiet. Hers wasn't. I watched Daniel sip his coffee, scrolling through emails, unaware that a small earthquake was forming on the other side of town. His mother was used to waking up to certainty. Bills paid, groceries covered, her sense of importance intact. That monthly deposit wasn't just money. It was proof, to her, that she still mattered. The truth is, it started years ago. After Daniel's father passed, she framed her need as temporary. Just until I get back on my feet. I believed her. I always do, at first. Months turned into years. The amount grew. So did the comments, the jokes about how lucky we were, how Daniel owed his success to family sacrifices. I absorbed it all, smiled through it, paid through it. But that Thanksgiving comment peeled something open. It showed me exactly how she saw us, how she saw me. Not as family, as a resource. At 9:14 a.m., my phone buzzed. One missed call, then another. I didn't answer. I just breathed, slow and steady, realizing something important. Pressure only works when you rush to relieve it. By noon, the calls turned desperate. Daniel's phone buzzed while he was in the shower, her name flashing across the screen again and again. I didn't touch it. I just watched it vibrate itself quiet, like a trapped insect. When he came out, towel around his waist, he frowned. "She's been calling all morning," he said. "Did something happen?" I kept my voice light. "No idea." That was the moment I started listening instead of reacting. When he finally answered her call on speaker, her voice cracked through the room, sharp and frantic. "Daniel, there's a problem. My money didn't come in. I checked twice." He glanced at me, confused. "What money?" "The monthly support," she snapped. "You know, the one Marissa sends." Silence stretched. I felt it press against my ribs. "She sends it," he asked slowly. I looked up from my coffee and met his eyes.
"Yes."
"I always have." The room shifted. Her breathing changed on the other end of the line. I heard papers shuffling, drawers opening, panic trying to stay polite. "Well, it must be a mistake," she said. "Tell her to fix it." I smiled softly. There was no mistake. And for the first time, I felt the power move from her voice into mine. She came over that evening without asking. I heard her heels before I saw her, sharp and angry against our floor, the sound of someone who still believed doors should open for her. Daniel froze halfway down the hallway. I stayed seated. "You embarrassed me," she said the moment she saw me. "No hello. No pretense. I had bills due today." I looked at her calmly. "That sounds stressful." Her eyes narrowed. "Don't do this. You know I rely on that money." "That's the problem," I said, standing now. "You don't rely on us. You rely on me staying quiet." Daniel's face drained of color as realization settled in. She turned to him, voice sweetening instantly. You wouldn't let this happen, would you? He hesitated. Just a second too long. The room held its breath. You laughed when you said we were nothing without being carried. I continued. So, I decided to put that theory to the test. Her mouth opened, then closed. Her dignity cracked right there, loud enough to hear. This is family, she hissed. You don't cut off family. I met her gaze. Family doesn't humiliate you at the table and then invoice you afterward. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. And in that silence, I realized something else. This wasn't revenge yet. This was just the beginning. After she left, the house felt lighter. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that forces you to hear your own thoughts. I didn't cry. I didn't pace. I sat at the kitchen table and finally let the truth settle in. I had been paying for my own disrespect. Funding it. Rewarding it. That hurt more than her words. Daniel tried to apologize that night. Not for her comment, for how it came out. I told him calmly that intent doesn't erase impact. He nodded, but I could tell this was the first time he was seeing me not as a buffer, but as a person with limits. That's when the plan formed. Not out of anger. Out of precision. I pulled up years of transfers. Screenshots. Dates. Amounts. I calculated exactly how much I'd given her, and what it had cost me in silence. Then I opened a new document and started organizing everything she thought she was entitled to. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg for respect. I was going to let reality do the talking. And reality, I knew, was very expensive. I executed it quietly. The next morning, I scheduled a meeting with our financial advisor and looped Daniel in. Not to accuse, to clarify. I laid everything out on the table. Years of transfers, the total amount, the purpose never documented, the expectation never agreed upon. Our advisor raised an eyebrow. This is significant, he said. And completely voluntary. Exactly. That afternoon, I drafted a polite, factual email to his mother. No emotion. Just information. The support had ended. Permanently. Any future assistance would require boundaries, respect, and transparency. No exceptions. She called immediately. I let it ring. When I finally answered, her voice was trembling. You planned this? Yes, I said. You're punishing me. No, I replied calmly. I'm opting out. There was a pause, the sound of someone realizing guilt no longer works. When she tried to raise her voice, I ended the call. For the first time, the power dynamic didn't feel fragile. It felt finished. The fallout didn't explode. It unraveled. Within days, relatives started calling Daniel. Not me. That was telling. Concerned voices, carefully worded questions. Is your mom okay? Did something happen financially? No one asked how I was. They never had. Daniel listened. For once, he didn't defend her. He asked questions instead. And each answer made his silence heavier. She tried one last tactic, showing up again softer this time. No accusations. Just tears. I don't recognize you anymore, she told him, eyes flicking toward me like I'd cast a spell. He surprised both of us. I don't think I recognized her before, he said quietly. That was the moment something in her collapsed. Not dramatically. Just a slow, defeated exhale. Later that night, Daniel admitted he'd always known the comments, the control, the way she spoke through me. He'd just never thought it would stop. Neither had she. But it had. And for the first time, the silence wasn't empty. It was earned. A month later, the message came. Not a demand. Not an accusation. A thank you note. Short. Careful. Unrecognizable. She wrote about learning independence, about budgeting, about humility. I read it twice, not to forgive, but to understand the shift. Here's the twist no one expects. Cutting her off didn't destroy the family. It corrected it. Daniel and I rebuilt something quieter, stronger. No buffers. No performative laughter. Just honesty. He started telling people I handled our finances. I drew the boundaries. And for once, no one laughed. As for her, she stopped joking about success. Stopped pretending blessings come without responsibility. When we see her now, she's polite, respectful, careful. Not because she's afraid, because she knows. The final truth is this: revenge doesn't always look like flames or shouting. Sometimes it looks like one calm decision, made in silence, that forces everyone else to grow up. I didn't raise my voice. I raised the standard. And when the money stopped, so did the disrespect. That was the moment I realized power doesn't announce itself. It simply withdraws.